Hi guys, I hope you haven't missed me too much. But we're back with another illustration and rant, so buckle in and enjoy. So, we all know a bar we like to meet our friends in, a bar we like to drink in, or even a bar to dance in. Well, in case any younger folks are watching, I sincerely hope you don't know any bars yet, but it will come, the time will come. But besides that, this certain location often is used in movies, series, or books to create a setting in which either the characters are partying, celebrating, and having fun in, or a place of sorrow, old and bad habits, sadness, and problems. Try to recall any series or movies that take more serious topics into account and represent them in their show. I can't count the amount of times I've watched the protagonist, the funny side character, or even the villain trek to the bar late at night wanting to drown their sorrows. If that's taken literally or not. A bar being the place where alcohol is publicly and openly served, with its limits of course, it tends to gain the reputation of a rather dazzling place for people to forget their current struggles and just stop thinking and feeling, using alcohol to do just that. In shows, for example, the characters might have just gone through a breakup and tread to the bar to cry, drink, and take many shots to forget, due to the pain that is weighing on their minds. I recently wanted to explore that idea and concept. Whilst it isn't a foreign one to society itself, I still felt the need to explore it myself. Not in the way of doing it actually, but to artistically reinterpret the idea. Since I deal with a lot of psychological themes and topics on this channel, such as mental struggles and traumas, I felt compelled to attack this concept and shape it anew. Many of my metaphors and symbolism takes place within our physical bodies. The idea of conceptualizing our brain and thoughts in an illustration so that more people can understand. Famously, a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. Thus, I wanted to depict our mind, or a rather certain part of our mind, as this place of drinking and mingling. We all deal with trauma, sadness, and depression in our own ways. As the bar isn't foreign to us, so are mental struggles. Now, the original idea stemmed from a normal occurrence in my life that had happened a week prior to when I started this illustration. I'm part of a youth group that meets up every week in our little room to play games and just hang out with another, and in this room we have a kitchen, and this kitchen has a bar. Usually when we cook together or just want to hang out by the kitchen, we sit at this said bar, and across from it we have this window that, when dark, reflects the people sitting at this said bar. Now, we usually tend to stay late into the evening, so we see the dark quite often, and thus we can see our reflection quite often. And I was laying with my upper body on the countertop just like the figure in this illustration. And I just really enjoyed the look of the pose, and it definitely posed a challenge with all that foreshortening, so I took it upon myself to complete this challenge. Now, did I fully succeed? That's for you to judge, but I'm satisfied and I've moved on to my next piece, so I can't really dwell on it. The sketch took me a while to do due to the complex ideas I wanted to include and combine. I had to think of the colors and in some places what they represent, and more fundamentally which colors would work together and would complement the characters. Since I don't illustrate black people that often, I wanted to do thus now. It is not metaphorical or symbolic in any way, I just wanted to switch it up. Now, the colors I chose tend to lean more on the orange side. I wanted to create a very warm and settling feeling. For one, because our body has a certain warm temperature that it needs to uphold, and because it's beginning to look a lot like winter, if you know what I mean. But I do stray away from this concept due to the overload of warm colors that I just didn't feel appealing or fitting. I grafted the conceptual look of this bar from English bars due to my knowledge they most commonly have those brick walls with many trinkets and pictures that make the place feel a lot more homey. This might be playing into stereotypes, but I can't go back now. I decided the bar to be wooden to just give it more of an older feel. Wood just embodies that for me. Behind said bar and cold brick walls, you'll discover the huge window I placed there. For one, to frame the figure at the bar and more importantly the foreground of the illustration. Secondly, I wanted it to work as a contrast, with the warmer and vibrant colors of the figure and the bar contrasting with the colder and lighter colors in the window, creating this effective color contrast that pulls focus. Also, similar to when doing portrait sketches in a sketchbook, artists tend to place a shape of any kind behind the portrait itself to ground it and pull focus. The same idea goes for this window. Outside the said window, I've placed the figure from the bar, but older. They're wearing a coat and beanie due to the original idea being a park view outside the window and the figure watching something wholesome and being in envy of it. I clothed them accordingly. On the inside of the bar, I've also placed the third and final figure in the upper left-hand corner, which is supposed to be the younger self of the character already established in the other two figures. So in total, we have the child self, the young adult or teen, and lastly the adult. I hung up the head of the youngest similar to a trophy, you know, like those animal heads that hang on those wooden boards. The idea behind it being us idealizing our younger selves oftentimes due to their ignorance and naivety we wish we still had, being able to believe in the greater good and ignore the blatant red flags that are thrown at us, the hopes and dreams we still had that didn't fizzle out. This reflects in the small smile on the face is carrying and the unbraided hair. Our authentic selves just living life, not caring about social standards and opinions, and now conforming to uncomfortable norms. Then again, those ideals and ideas have died out in some cases, thus we hang it as a memory to our wall. Whilst on the topic of hair, I wanted to first of all apologize in advance because I didn't really take the time to fully detail the hair just because I've already spent so much time on this illustration and I was just too lazy, so I apologize for that. But from afar you can still tell they're braids and I think that's all that matters. Now secondly, the teen version of this character has half braided and half unbraided hair, with which I was trying to show the slow realization and conformity to social norms, and us literally tying our natural selves back. This doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing, yet it often is. With the change of expression as well, I wanted to emulate how often in these teen years we feel a lot of sadness and pain, and we're influenced the most, I argue. Now, the eldest figure has fully braided hair, with a beanie covering and hiding the crown of the head, just showing a fully integrated and comfort person trying to fit in. The posture and arms placement also reflects the idea of hiding behind social norms due to the fear of rejection. They are in fact looking within, knowing well who they are and could be, yet all that is trapped within. Besides the figures, I also wanted to address the walls that are cracking, reflecting the idea of us breaking ourselves to fit in and conform. On those walls as well, beneath the trophy head, there are different jackets and clothes hung up representing the dreams, hopes, and future careers we wanted, or hobbies even, that we have neglected and hung up to play someone different. Above the window, I've hung up 3 masks that are a callback to the illustration I made of the idea of masking one's emotions and just repurposing the idea. On the bar itself, I decided to place a few bottles or beer or wine, whatever you'd imagine to be hiding in those bottles, but most certainly they'll have some percentage of alcohol in them. I attempted to draw glasses, yet I didn't feel like they worked out, so I decided to scrap them along with the idea of placing a skull and bones across the illustration. For one, to replicate the idea of still lives and vanitas, the concept of dying, and secondly, to clarify the bar being the inside of one's body. I didn't feel like it needed that clarification. The illustration is meant to raise discussions and make people talk, so I discarded that idea. Lastly, the outside of the window, as mentioned before, changed. Instead of a city scenario, I drew the Earth from space view, playing with the idea of the world watching us from the outside, it being over social media or just the public. A small detail I forgot to mention was the red liquid dripping out of the bottle in the hand of the figure at the bar. It was a callback to the idea of it being a bar within our bodies, a illustrative representation of what it might look like within a part of our mind, and it just being blood pouring out of those bottles, us drowning ourselves with the physical and conforming. It's a very abstract idea, and I think anyone can pull something out of that idea and concept, so I'll leave it open to the masses to decide what they want. And as always, these illustrations will always signify something different for anyone who's watching, and I'm not going to constrict that. So take what you feel like fits and run with that. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this little rant of mine and the concept I created, and I'll catch you all hopefully in the next video that I still need to edit. Goodbye.